Welcome. My name is Myron Freedman. I'm the director of the Nevada State Museum here in Carson City. The chair's in the back, folks. Okay. Just a couple of announcements real quick. Following this program at noon, we will begin general striking of our new medallion on coin press number 1. And we're serving a buffet lunch in the museum's D. McGuinn concourse right behind us, so please stay and enjoy that. Thank you all very much for joining us today. I also want to thank the Nevada Mining Association and Visit Carson City for supporting today's event here at the museum. This morning, Mayor Bob Crowell eloquently welcomed everyone into the Mint Building, and I thank him for doing us that honor. Xiomara Ibarra is also here with us today, representing Senator Rosen, who could not make it. Thank you, Ms. Ibarra. And Kurt Engelhardt from Senator Cortez Masto's office dropped off this certificate. Thank you for the Mint today. Appreciate it very much. And before we hear from our distinguished panel of speakers, I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the museum's volunteers, many of whom are here today, once again, donating their time, sharing their knowledge, and assisting us with tasks both modern and historic. And I thank them deeply for helping the museum succeed in its mission to celebrate, share, and preserve Nevada's history. We began celebrating the Carson City Mint Sesquicentennial in December of 2018, marking the arrival of coin press number 1 150 years ago. And for over a year now, we have presented and shared a cavalcade of mint topics and special minting projects illuminating the story of this great Nevada treasure. But it was today, February 4th, 1870, 150 years ago, and perhaps just as cold as today, that business finally got underway at the new Carson City branch mint by issuing the very first U.S. legal tender stamped with the mint mark CC. Well, what an age it was in America back in the 1860s and 70s, a country still forming, internally battling over its direction and its values, but nevertheless driving ahead and fulfilling the functions set by the founders and Congress, including the establishment of an economy that would stretch even as the nation did, westward. Today we take for granted the ability to receive goods and services with nothing material in our pockets except a piece of plastic or a cell phone. Transactions are conducted through the ether. Not so in the 1860s, especially in the West, where it was common to buy and sell based on barter, handshakes, notes, and of course, with coins. It was the Treasury Department's responsibility to ensure a well-managed monetary system for the country, one that evolved to better serve citizens. Now, how important was an organized treasury to the founders? The Continental Congress established federal monetary oversight in 1778, 9 years before the Constitution was established. A key component of the monetary system was the minting of U.S. coins. The Coinage Act of 1792 established the first U.S. mint in Philadelphia. Mints followed in Charlotte, North Carolina, Dahlonega, Georgia, New Orleans, Louisiana, a private mint in Denver, Colorado, and finally one in San Francisco. All of these mints, with the exception of New Orleans, were established to process precious metals mined in the vicinity into ready coinage. So it is not surprising the government decided to do the same in the location of one of the richest areas of gold and silver deposits ever discovered, the Comstock Lode, not 20 miles from where you now sit. The authorization for the CC Mint by the U.S. Congress came in 1863, when Nevada was still a territory. The Mint building was constructed under the watchful supervision of Abe Curry, one of Carson City's founders. It wasn't easy keeping the attention of Congress on its latest mint project when it was busy with a civil war and its political aftermath. But by 1868, the Mint building was constructed and receiving its minting equipment. including a coin press. That is to say, one coin press. A single coin press. To do the actual work that made the beautiful sandstone building what it was, a mint. Known as Number 1, the 6-ton press was manufactured in Philadelphia by the Morgan Ore and Company foundry, shipped from there to Panama, carted across the isthmus, loaded onto another vessel for passage to San Francisco, unloaded, and carried by train over the Sierra Nevada to Reno, and by wagon to Carson City. That was late in 1868. All that was missing now were the dies. And they were to be issued by the Mother Mint in Philadelphia. Those took another year to arrive. It was 150 years ago today, February 4th, 1870, that coin press number 1 struck a liberty-seated dollar and the building became a mint. At this time, it was not known it would only be a short 23 years before coining operations would cease in 1893, or that its original coin press would give out in 1878, necessitating the assistance of talented railroad machinists to do a custom repair job right here in Carson City, who not only put it back in service, but also rechristened it as a Nevada-made coin press. Or that in 1899, it would no longer even be considered a mint and have to send all 3 of its presses away to work in other U.S. mints. Today, the Carson City Mint's brief and intense history is what makes it so fascinating. Like the Comstock load itself, it was full of promise, then it wasn't. Then it was, and then it was over. 107 different types of gold and silver coins in 10 denominations with a combined face value of $50 million. Liberty-seated and Morgan dollars that in some cases today fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction, and a couple of smaller denomination rarities that fetch millions. Such is the fascination of Carson City's minted coins. But time has been kind to the old mint. Why? Because it was lucky enough to be put in Carson City, a small community that was proud of its national mint, that adored being the home of a U.S. mint, and then mourned its closing. When the building was put up for sale in the 1930s, the community came together under Judge Clark Guild to petition the state to save it and give it a second career as Nevada's state museum. And perhaps no one was as surprised as the old judge when the call came in the 1950s asking if this old coin press at the San Francisco Mint, the one, according to the label on it, was manufactured by the V&T Railroad. And so it must have spent time operating at the CC Mint. And might that be of interest to the museum before it was scrapped? Yes. Yes, interested indeed. Mint and coin press together again. Well, to help us fully appreciate the meaning of the Carson City Mint on the 150th anniversary of beginning its storied career, we are joined by leaders from our great state, from the mining world, and from the U.S. Treasury Department. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great pleasure and honor to introduce the Governor of Nevada, Steve Sisolak.
Thank you for having me on this brisk morning, 150 years later. It's an honor, and it brings me back when I'm standing at the door there and I see the field trip coming off the bus, going into the museum and what they're going to see and what they'll be feeling 30, 40, 50 years from now when we celebrate the 200th anniversary. Thank you for being here. This is such an incredible day. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge a few people that we have here in the crowd with us, including U.S. Mint Director David Ryder. I think I've got Kate the Marshal here somewhere. I think Kate's here somewhere. Treasurer Zach Conine is with us. United States Congressman Mark Amodei is here with us. Quite a round of applause you got there, Mark. Carson City Mayor Bob Kroll. And Myron Freedman. Freedman, the Acting Administrative Division of Museums and History. And the other state and local officials that have joined us here this morning. Today we celebrate the 150th anniversary of the Carson City Mint, issuing the first Carson City coin. While coin press number 1 historically is attached to the Mint building in Carson City, it is a treasured artifact for the entire state, and one the Nevada State Museum uses to celebrate our history. Communities, organizations, and agencies statewide have commissioned special medallions from the Carson City Mint to commemorate Nevada's historic places, people, and events. Some of these medallions represent a wide variety of Nevada landscapes and moments in history. Some of the medallions minted on coin press number 1 include, for Las Vegas, celebrating Nevada's great metropolis; for Reno, 100 years of the wildest, richest rodeo in the West; Elko, honoring the Northeast Nevada Museum's 50th anniversary; Ely, celebrating North America and most intact historical railroad site, the Nevada Northern Railway; and the USS Nevada, honoring the indomitable battleship and the crews that served our nation. Medallions from coin press number 1 are more than just pieces of metal. They are reminders of how unique Nevada is and markers of our rich history. Today we celebrate the long history of the Carson City Mint at the Nevada State Museum, and it is also fitting to recognize and honor the museum's resident expert on the history of the mint and coin press, as well as his long-serving employee, Bob Nylen. As curator of history, Bob has helped illuminate Nevada's historic legacy for the past 35 years, first with the Nevada Historical Society, followed by decades here at the State Museum, in countless responses to researchers, hundreds of school and public programs, and myriad of publications and exhibits, ultimately reaching many thousands of Nevadans. Bob has deepened our understanding of Nevada history and has left an indelible stamp on the museum and the state. Is Bob the one that makes an impression on those school kids that got off that bus to go for a field trip? And it's a memory that they will always remember being here. We wish Bob the very best as he enters a well-deserved retirement this March. Through their collections and programs, all of Nevada's stories that make Nevada's history unforgettable. I encourage every Nevadan and visitor to the Silver State to visit these wonderful institutions and immerse yourself in Nevada history. Thank you again to everyone for joining me today to mark this momentous occasion in Nevada history, the 150th anniversary of the Carson City Mint. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Governor. Next, ladies and gentlemen, Nevada's 2nd U.S. Congressional District Congressman, Mark Amodei.
Thanks, Myron. I know none of you came here today to hear me talk, so I'm not going to disappoint you. You're so true. Get hit one of the 3rd or 4th points there. Myron did a nice job of talking about the history, and I didn't realize that the first coin they struck was a seated Liberty dollar.
Is that 1870?
Yes, it is. Well, I'm sure you did something nice with the first one. This is probably the 4th or the 5th one, but anyhow, it's back home where it belongs. As a guy who grew up in Carson City and remembers when you could walk in the front door of the Mint, there was an office to the right. The museum. There was an office to the right. You looked at the silver service from the battleship Nevada. There was mining stuff. There were arrowheads. There was the gun room. There was all this stuff. And you could kind of come and go as you please. And then to watch it evolve into the facility that it is now and the people that have come and gone throughout that and the expansion to other locations, the expansion of the railroad mission south of town, and that Bob Nylen name, which is a name I've never heard before until today. This is a big deal. for somebody who grew up in Carson City. And some of you were gracious to, aren't you supposed to be somewhere else? No, I'm not. They'll be just fine until I get back tomorrow. Or at least as good as they have been. But anyhow, as we sit here and talk about this, and I mean, to have the governor here, the director of the Mint, it's like, this is a big darn deal. And I sit here and look at this like, so we got a tent in the parking lot, we got 100 plus people here. This is vintage Western Nevada. Yeah. This is vintage Western Nevada. Come as you are, people who are proud of our history. And by the way, even though they had something going in North Carolina and Georgia or whatever, this is the only one of its kind in the West. And of course there are politics in getting it started, and there are politics in when it's shut down. But it's like the enduring memory and history and living memory and history of this facility is something that you just really can't duplicate anywhere else. That's right. You know, the one in New Orleans, I think it's a jazz museum. Nothing against jazz, I listen to it occasionally. But having this facility take on the role as the state museum and housing what it houses, all while going, hey, this was a United States branch mint. And I just want to add one thing. Judge Guild was the driving force behind this. It's like, what are we going to do with that big stone building or whatever? The mule for the legislation that Governor Sisolak signed, I mean his predecessor, was the one.
Old, but not that old.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Can I still keep that stuff you gave me, please? The mule for that legislation was a one-term assemblyman from Carson City whose name was Pete Amodei. Yeah. He was a lot smarter than his great nephew. He stayed one and left. So anyhow, it's and I'll just add, you know, the Glenbrook, the locomotive from the Bliss Lumber Company, used to be parked on the corner up here before Caroline Street got turned into kind of where we are now. I had my first cigarette in the cab of the Glenbrook at night. And the Glenbrook and the museum did such a good job, it was my last cigarette. Didn't go well. But anyhow, I can't thank you enough, Myron, for inviting me to be part of this. Director Ryder, I can't thank you enough for coming here in this role. Been an outstanding person to work with. We're working on some other sort of stuff that commemorate Morgan dollars and stuff like that. That cake isn't baked yet, but we couldn't have a better person in terms of open-minded and wanting to do the right thing in that job. So, with that, thank you, good morning, and God bless Nevada.
It's been a stressful day, Congressman, so if I could bum one of those cigarettes, I'd sorely appreciate it. I met our treasurer not long after he took over in his new job, and I know he's a big fan of the museum and of the coin press, so it's my pleasure to introduce our treasurer, Zach Conine.
I gotta move the mic down a little bit after the congressman. Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Good. Now, many of you aren't from Nevada. Is that correct? Some of you have come in from out of town. Can I get a show of hands? Okay, and the people with their hands raised are committed to spending all of their money before they leave our great state. Thank you all. It's an honor to be here this morning to celebrate a truly historic day for the state of Nevada. As we look back at 150 years of the Carson City Mint, we can take pride in the fact that we've preserved one of the most beloved pieces of cultural history for the Silver State. You know, they always tell you don't give a speech about history after a museum director. I've never given a speech about history after a museum director, a governor, and a congressman. So you'll just have to bear with me as I skip giant swaths of this speech. You know, as your state treasurer, I never miss an opportunity to talk about money. I was promised that if I keep coming to these events and continue being treasurer, that eventually they'll put my face on a coin. So hopefully we can all come back and celebrate that in the future. You know, for the last 150 years, the Mint has brought immense cultural and historical significance to our state. The Carson City Mint continues its significance today as families take their children to admire the original press and take in a reminder of the past. You know, while today is an opportunity for celebration, I think it's important that we take a step back and reflect a little bit on how we got here. Insert Myron's speech here. In the mid-1800s, The U.S. Mint faced challenges in getting enough coins into circulation, particularly in the newly established western frontier. 6 years into statehood, Nevada, born in battles over secession and statehood and the Civil War, was a place of hope and optimism. It was this sense of optimism that secured this new mint. With a blast of steam, the press struck for the first time the Liberty-seeded dollar with a CC mark, cemented Nevada's place in this hard-fought and more perfect union. Over time, the mark of the Carson City Mint would become as distinguished as the bald eagle that flew directly above it. The new mint helped provide a sense of belonging to a state that hadn't yet established itself in a union full of possibilities. Minerals and precious metals were extracted from the ground and turned into coins, creating jobs and economic opportunity for Nevadans. For almost 25 years, this historic press produced nearly $50 million of gold and silver coins, including gold double eagles, silver dollars, quarters, dimes, and even the short-lived 20-cent piece. One of them was in Congressman Amodei's pocket, and he's agreed to return it to the mint, which I thought was a really generous decision.
I think it's counterfeit.
We'll check. Today, coins that bear the distinct mark of the Carson City Mint are among the most valuable to collectors and are available in the gift shop. They're available in the gift shop. Sheer volume of coins produced by the mint is significant in its own right, but the fact that the coins are still pressed here today after a century and a half is truly incredible. I think the governor had it right. When we walked in today, we saw a school bus dropping off the kids. 150 years ago, it wasn't a school bus. It was wagons bringing ore to come in to be pressed to create something that would exist in permanence, that would show value, it would be able to be passed along. Nowadays, we bring in children through the back, and the thing we're pressing on, the thing that we're creating in permanence is education. I think it's really important that we all continue supporting this museum, the Railroad Museum, all of the other museums in the great state of Nevada, so that we can continue minting young minds and have a better future. And they can share that with their kids and their kids. I want to thank Myron, Freedman, and the entire team at the Division of Museum for the work they've done to preserve this small but mighty piece of Nevada history. Peter Barton is somewhere in the room, recently retired director of Administrator of the Museum things. I'd like to all, if we could give him a round of applause. In the same way that the mark of the Carson City Mint helped create value for the American economy in the 1870s, it continues to create and instill value for future generations of Nevadans. It symbolizes a sense of knowledge and common purpose that helped form the building blocks of this state. It showed that Nevadans could work together, take what the land provided and transform it into something meaningful, something permanent. Resources for the future by way of imparting the history and knowledge of the past. Thank you for joining us here on this historic day. It's an honor to be here to celebrate the first 150 years of something that is uniquely in Nevada. I'm hopeful that we can continue to produce coins at the Carson City Mint for another 150 years. And on February 4th, 2170, we can all join together in the same spot. There's wonderful medical advances we're making in order to celebrate for future generations. Again, as a reminder, the gift shop is right through those doors. Thank you all for coming today.
So depending on the support we get from the state treasurer, that Zach Conine medallion could be gold, silver, or brass.
Maybe wood.
Coin press can handle wood. So today we are sponsored by Nevada Mining Association and Visit Carson City, and I'm delighted that we have with us the president from the Nevada Mining Association, Dana Bennett.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Myron. I am delighted to be here this morning on behalf of the Nevada Mining Association and the 520 member companies of this organization. We are very pleased to sponsor today's Sesquicentennial event, and I would like to point out that no one else has said that word yet. Sesquicentennial. As has been said, this branch of the U.S. Mint was put here in Carson City because the world-famous Nevada gold and silver mines were just a few miles away. In the 19th century, Nevada supplied gold and silver all around the world, and we were very famous for that. In the 21st century, we continue to supply minerals and metals all over the world that are needed for clean energy, for renewable energy technology, for advanced manufacturing, Nevada's mining is as much a part of our state today as it was 150 years ago. And I am really pleased that we can be here today to recognize the long relationship that we have had with this facility. I can say Sesquicentennial, I stumble on facility. But we are absolutely delighted to sponsor today's event. Please enjoy it. Thank you all for being here, and thank you very much.
I'm going to miss my coining partner. I'm not sure how we're going to get along without him, but I'm not going to let him go without doing one more job and getting up here and sharing a little bit of history with you. Bob Nylen.
Thank you, Myron. Myron asked me to speak about an individual that really played a part. We wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been for Judge Clark J. Guild, who back in the early summer of 1938, on a day when he liked to go down on a Sunday and pick up his mail and then stroll down to first the Arlington Hotel, which is now the parking lot over here, blank space. But then that day in 1938, he decided to go a little bit farther. And he went by the front of the U.S. Mint, and he saw on the front of it a for sale sign. And he got really upset immediately because he knew here was this great piece of American history, Nevada history, U.S. Mint history, and by having that for sale sign, the building had been closed since 1933. It was the last time when the federal government closed down the assay office. But he realized right away the building could be threatened immediately because some in the community didn't see what he saw, the history and the importance of that facility. And he realized that some actually thought there was tremendous value in the building if you tore it down and sifted through it, and all the gold and silver residue over the years would be there. But he had a dream. Right then, he had a dream that this should be made into a museum. He had no experience as far as museums in any way, but he had that dream and he started that forward, and he got the support of the community and individuals around the state, and also our federal government, our elected officials there, and then state government. As Congressman Amodei mentioned, his relative was involved in that bill that got through the legislature. So the state was able to buy for an incredible sum of $5,000 the old historic Mint building. A few more years of challenges, and finally on October 31st, which to many that were here today that are from out of the state, that's our admission day in history, October 31st, 1864, and we celebrate that with a major day that Judge Guild was one of the founders of, also Nevada Day, when there's a huge parade down Carson Street, and that was also on October 31st, 1941, the opening of the Mint as the museum. And what a special day that was. And this would be a very special day. And so I asked that we think of Judge Guild and his dream that he had. This continues today. As you go into the building today, and you go up the stairs, and you go by our wall with the enlarged coins there, a little bit farther down on the right, this little area that's dedicated to Judge Guild. Gives a little bit more about his life and history and that dream that he had. And I've told this story many, many times, and I'll continue even after I retire telling this story, because I think it's a special story about how one individual could make such a difference by having that dream. And on my last comment here, I'm going to be retiring, and I have a dream too. I have a dream that we'll have an auditorium someday in this facility. And that's why, because I'm retiring, I want to say that this is what we need in this area here to share with the public all kinds of different events and other things. So I think that dream will happen someday. So thank you very much.
I'm very grateful when I called sent a text, an email I should say, to the office of the U.S. Mint Director, David J. Ryder. I got a personal email back pretty quickly. And I invited him to come out and be a part of today's festivities. And he agreed. So really, David, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. David J. Ryder is the 39th United States Mint Director. He also led the Mint as its 34th director from September of '92 to November of '93 during the administration of George H.W. Bush and President Bill Clinton. Most recently, Director Ryder was the Global Business Development Manager and Managing Director of Currency for Honeywell's Authentication Technologies Group. Previously, Director Ryder served as CEO of Secure Products Corporation, a new business venture spin-off from the Sarnoff Corporation, who developed highly advanced anti-counterfeiting technologies for the protection of global currencies and other valued documents. So I guess you do know about counterfeit coins, so you can take a look at that 20-cent. We'll have Rusty take a look at it too and make sure it's the real deal. In addition to the United States Mint, Mr. Ryder's prior government service includes Deputy Treasurer of the United States, Deputy Chief of Staff to Vice President Dan Quayle, Special Assistant Vice President George H.W. Bush. Director Ryder worked for the United States Department of Commerce as Commissioner General of the U.S. Pavilion at the 1984 Louisiana World Exposition. As Mint Director, Mr. Ryder leads an organization of almost 1,700 people who are employed with responsibilities ranging from securing the assets entrusted to the Mint to the design, manufacturing, and distribution of circulating precious metal and collectible coins and national medals. The Mint operates 6 facilities across the United States, headquarters in Washington, D.C., production facilities in Philadelphia, San Francisco, Denver, and West Point, and the U.S. Bullion Depository at Fort Knox. Mr. Ryder was born in Billings, Montana, raised in Boise, Idaho, and so now I welcome our fellow Westerner to the podium, Director David Ryder.
Well, I think it's all been said, so I can just sit back down. I was talking to the governor. I was concerned that my remarks was way too long. But I realized after watching everybody that they had single space 12 font and mine is double space 15 font, so I think I'll be okay. So thank you for the introduction, Myron. Good afternoon, Governor. Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall, a representative, my new friend Congressman Amodei. And then we also have Treasurer Conine here, who former deputy treasurer. I think you have more responsibility than I had back in the day. And then the Nevada Mining Association president, Dana. Nice to meet you earlier today. State Museum curator Robert Nylen, Mayor Robert Cromwell, and we also have gathered here with an old friend of mine, who is the former one of the best engravers the Mint has had. A young man by the name of Tom Rogers, who I worked with many years ago. Did Tom make it in here? There we are. Tom is one of the best engravers we had. He's now in private industry, and I asked him today. He's busier than he's ever been, so congratulations and thanks for making the trip. And then one other old friend of mine who's sitting here in the fedora. You're probably all wondering what a dapper-looking fellow he is. Michael Brown is formerly used to work at the Mint and now works for the governor, and I'm told he's doing a pretty good job. So welcome, Michael. So it really is truly an honor to serve as the 39th Director of the United States Mint. I've had a unique and distinct pleasure of serving under 3 presidents. I first led the Mint as the 34th Director from September 92 to 93, as was mentioned. And I received that job under Secretary of the Treasury Nick Brady and George Herbert Walker Bush, who I worked with for quite a number of years, a great American president. And I also spent a few months after the President Clinton was elected, and then decided to leave and start a 25, 30-year career in the private sector. I wanted to talk a little bit today and share an overview of the Mint's history, our roles and responsibility and mission, because I love talking about the United States Mint, because we have a great story to tell, and an important part of the United States Mint history and its story begins at the Carson City Mint, which I will talk a little bit about later. So Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5 of the Constitution, that's a mouthful, gave Congress the power to coin money. While the Coinage Act of 1792 established the original Philadelphia Mint, President George Washington, who only lived a few blocks from the new mint, is believed to have donated some of his own silver for minting. George Washington appointed David Rittenhouse, a leading American scientist, as the first mint director of the mint. The very first circulating coins totaled 11,178 copper cents, which were delivered in 1793. We now mint coins around the world, and we can certainly make more than 11,778 on a given minute, maybe half a minute. The mint's primary responsibility has expanded quite a bit since 1793. We now produce enough adequate volume of circulating coins in the United States to conduct its trade and commerce and distribute these coins to the Federal Reserve Bank. We manufacture, market, and sell proof circulating coins, commemorative coins, and medals to the public, as well as manufacture, market, and sell gold, silver, platinum, bullion coins throughout America, as well as throughout our American Bullion coin program. We also safeguard mint assets and other federal assets that are in the United States Mint custody, including bullion reserves held at the Fort Knox Bullion Depository. You may wonder what the most valuable asset the mint has. Many would assume gold, silver, and platinum coins, but the most valuable, in my opinion, is our organization's most precious and priceless assets, is our dedicated workforce. Similar to Bob, that you and I really mean that. We have about 1,700 men and women in the United States Mint who demonstrate their commitment to serve quality with quality and integrity. It's evident in every coin that we produce, and I'm honored to lead such a motivated, diverse, and inclusive workforce, and I'm particularly proud that 36% of our workforce have served the great nation in our armed forces. 36%. As was mentioned earlier, the United States Mint has 6 facilities. Our headquarters is located in Washington, D.C., where we have about 400 employees. We have manufacturing facilities in Denver, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and right on the West Point Military Academy in West Point, New York, where we also store quite a large volume of gold and silver. Circulating coins are manufactured at the mints in Denver and in Philadelphia. Most proof coins are manufactured at San Francisco, at the San Francisco Mint, while precious metals, bullion coins are manufactured at our West Point facility. It is very important to note that the Mint does not receive operating funds from Congress. Rather, the Mint operates under a public enterprise fund, which makes us responsible for our own funding, much like a private sector company. Sales of circulating coins from the Mint to the Federal Reserve generate what's called seigniorage. Seigniorage is the difference between the face value of a coin and the manufacturer's cost. Seigniorage netted $318 million in FY19. The Mint tracks its revenue and expenses in a manner similar to a private business. At the end of each fiscal year, revenue in excess of the amount required by the Mint's Public Enterprise Fund is transferred to the United States Treasury's General Fund. For fiscal year 2019, the Mint transferred $540 million to the General Fund, which was used for deficit reduction purposes. The net returns from the Mint numismatic program operations include bullion coin programs are also available to help fund the federal government operations and programs. We have been very successful in this regard, netting $7.5 million in fiscal 2019 from the sale and collectible for the sale of collectible and commemorative coins. It's also important to note that our coin programs are done in accordance with legislation that has been signed into law. The laws normally allow latitude on the designs that appear in our coins, but all coins are approved by the Secretary of the Treasury. Now I'd like to take a look at what is in store, and many of you are coin collectors, so I thought I would give you an idea of what's in store for you in the next 2 years. So the next programs that we have coming up are the Hidden Features Congressional Gold Medal, the Anwar Sadat Congressional Gold Medal, the Larry Goldie Congressional Gold Medal, the Chinese American World War II Veterans Congressional Gold Medal, the USS Indianapolis Congressional Gold Medal, the 2020 Basketball Hall of Fame commemorative coin, the 2020 American Suffrage Centennial commemorative coin, which will commemorate the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, giving women the right to vote. We'll also be presenting the Christy McCullough commemorative coin and the 2021 National Law Enforcement Museum commemorative coin. So I mentioned commemorative coins, and I would like to talk a little bit about these just a bit more. So Congress authorizes commemorative coins that celebrate and honor American people, places, events, institutions. Although these coins are legal tender, they are not minted for general circulation. Each commemorative coin is produced by the United States Mint in limited quantity and is only available for a limited time. As well as commemorating important aspects of American history and culture, these coins help raise money for important causes. Part of the price of these coins and surcharges that go to organizations and projects that benefit the community. Since the modern commemorative coin programs began in 1982, the United States Mint has raised more than $500 million in surcharges to help build new museums, maintain national monuments such as the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, preserve historical sites like the Statue of Liberty, and support various programs to celebrate these important American causes. I also mentioned the Congressional Gold Medals, which are the highest civilian honor to be bestowed on by Congress and are produced by the United States Mint. I recently had the opportunity to participate in the presentation of the Stephen Michael Gleason Congressional Gold Medal at a ceremony in Sanctuary Hall up on Capitol Hill. The medal recognizes former player Steve Gleason's work as an advocate for people with ALS, also known as the Lou Gehrig's disease. It was quite an emotional ceremony and was attended by Steve Gleason, his wife, his children, congressional leaders, and most notable NFL figures, including the New Orleans Saints' Drew Brees. And I want to add, before I go on, I got the chance to meet Steve, and I spent some time with him, and he's a Roman Catholic like I am, and so I sent him a special note after the ceremony and sent him Pope John Paul's Congressional Gold Medal that the Pope got from the United States Mint in the year 2000. So I asked Steve to put it side by side in his place of honor with his gold medal. So the United States Mint is collectively working very hard to achieve results that lay the groundwork for the Mint's future success. Here's a sampling of some of the significant initiatives that are underway. The American Eagle redesign. So in 2021, the United States Mint will release new versions of the American Eagle silver and gold coins. These coins will feature entirely new designs on the reverse, renewing renderings of the Liberty on the obverse, and will incorporate new anti-counterfeiting technologies. The Basketball Hall of Fame. As I mentioned, the Basketball Hall of Fame commemorative coin a bit earlier. This year, for the first time ever, the United States Mint is going to issue about 100,000 plaid coins and 75,000 silver $1 coins that will be colorized. It's the first time the Mint has done that in its over, 200 years of operation. We're also going to be introducing the 400th anniversary of the Mayflower. We will release a 24-karat gold coin and silver medal celebrating the 400th anniversary of the sailing of the Mayflower, and this is a joint project that I've undertaken with the British Royal Mint, who will also produce coins in celebration of that event. The W nickel for all you coin collectors. Later this month, we will release a 2020 United States Mint proof set. This set contains 10 coins, each bearing the S Mint mark of the United States Mint in San Francisco. Each set will include an additional 2020 Jefferson nickel in a proof finish struck at West Point with a W Mint mark. The special coin is packaged separately in clear United States Mint plastic wrap and inserted into the envelope. And those of you that aren't coin collectors, this is a big deal for coin collectors. They enjoy these kind of things. The first, the first of 3 annual sets will include an additional separate packaging premium nickel with W Mint mark for 2020. The United States Mint silver proof set will include an additional premium nickel in a reverse proof finish, and the United States Mint encircling coin set will include a premium nickel in an unfinished set. We've got a number of anti-counterfeiting efforts underway. The Mint has established an interdisciplinary team to research and review both overt and covert options to enhance the protection of our bullion sold worldwide. In addition to improved anti-counterfeiting measures, we are reaching out to educate ourselves in the numismatic community and consumers about potential counterfeits, so to ensure continued confidence in our bullion programs for many years to come. I've started also a number of international collaborations this last couple of years. One of these initiatives that I'm most excited about was a collaboration that we did earlier this year called The Pride of Two Nations, which was a set that was developed in connection with the Royal Canadian Mint, and we'll be working on other programs that I'll be introducing later this year. The Canadian set, we sold 100,000 of it, sold out in 4 days, which was quite a success for us. And then also later this year, recently the Congress passed legislation and the President signed the George Herbert Walker Bush First Spouse Barbara Bush coin program. So this year the Mint will be striking and circulating honoring $1 coins honoring the President George Herbert Walker Bush and his lovely wife Barbara. We'll also be doing something special that I was surprised that Congress didn't pass this legislation, so we took it on ourselves to get this done. But we're going to be striking World War II 75th anniversary coins. The period from May 8th to September 2nd marks the 75th anniversary of the end of the United States involvement in World War II. In recognition of this significant anniversary, the United States Mint plans to produce a portfolio of numismatic products which will honor the more than 16 million Americans who served in the armed forces during the course of this struggle. More than 405,000 men and women made the ultimate sacrifice in the cause of democracy and peace, and I am very happy that the Secretary of the Treasury is allowing us to do this. I think it's going to be a great program for everybody to collect. And then many of you have been asking me today about the W Quarter program. So in addition to the W Quarter program, numismatic products, we're going to strike 2 million of each 2020 American the Beautiful quarters at West Point Mint. Each quarter will bear the W Mint mark and feature, again, hasn't been done before, feature a privy mark signifying the Allied victory in World War II. The privy mark consists of the characters V75, signifying the 75th anniversary of World War II victory, surrounded by the outline of the rainbow pool which is incorporated into the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. So you can start checking your coins there. That is something that Senator Bob Dole worked pretty hard to achieve, and we want to honor him and the veterans of World War II by incorporating that printing mark, V75, in all of our W quarters. Okay, so now I've heard a lot about the Mint, the United States Mint, so I just want to talk real briefly about the Carson City Mint.
Be my guest.
So the Carson City Mints hold a special place in the Mint's history. On December 27, 1865, U.S. Secretary of the Treasury Hugh McCulloch authorized a committee of 3 Nevada citizens to select and approve locations for a mint at Carson City, Nevada. The committee included Abe Curry, founder of Carson City, F. Rice, and John Mills. Mr. Curry facilitated the work of the commissioners by donating an entire city block to that goal. On July 18, 1866, 3 commissioners received authority to produce with construction of the mint on September 18, 1866. The cornerstone was dedicated and laid by the Grand Masonic Lodge of Nevada. A look through the U.S. Mint records, specifically the Director's Report for 1866, carries the following item. Additional instructions from the department directed me, the Director of the Mint, to visit the Branch Mint building at Carson City, Nevada, which I did in company with J.M. Eckfield, Esquire, the melter and refiner of the Branch Mint in San Francisco. The building is in rapid process of erection. It is a good site, 60 by 90 feet, of 2 stories, built of good quality of sandstone, and is exceedingly well arranged. It is located upon a large and handsome lot ground, entirely disconnected from other buildings. The report also contains information about the cost of the construction. I dare say the numbers would be quite different today. But the price of the material and labor in currency, stone per cord, $16.50. Brick, $32.50 per thousand. Lumber, $70 per thousand. Lime, $27 per ton. Mechanics, $8, and laborers, they were really overpaid, $5 per day. It's so remarkable high that it seems to be impossible to complete the building with the amount appropriated for that purpose. The supervising architect is, however, quite confident that it can be finished for $100,000, which is an amount which it was appropriated for. I can guarantee you that I cannot even put a mint in my building for less than a couple $1 million. When we further examine the Carson City Mint's history, one area that strikes me is the employment opportunities, specifically management roles, which were filled by female workers. At a time when women did not have the right to vote in an election, these women assumed leadership and supervisory positions. Several trailblazing women assumed leaderships and management positions and truly left a mark in the United States Mint history. Their work helped advance the fight for gender equality in the workplace. In September 1877, Miss Elvira Cowan was appointed the first forewoman at the Mint, having served as an adjuster at the Carson City Mint since 1870. Interestingly enough, the first woman hired in the federal government in 1793 worked at the U.S. Mint as a justice. Cowan's promotion marked the first time a woman assumed the position of supervisor to the adjusters. Miss Cowan was paid $90 a month for her work. She served as a forewoman until 1885, when coinage operations ceased for 4 years at the Carson City Mint. Cowan's promotion opened doors. Other women soon followed in her footsteps, supervising adjusters and other branch mints, as well as managing clerks and administrative offices. In July 1883, Miss Stella Gates was appointed an assayer clerk in the assayer's office department in Carson City Mint. By July 1887, Miss Emma Duff became the first female computing clerk when she accepted her position at the Carson City Mint. The last trailblazer I'd like to recognize is Annie H. Martin. She became the first woman to head the Mint facility. She was appointed assay in charge of the Carson City Mint Nevada Assay Office by President Warren G. Harding on July 7, 1921, and was confirmed by the Senate on July 13, 1921. Annie Martin took the oath of office on August 3, 1921, and headed the assay office for 21 wonderful years. So before I finish, I want to say that I truly believe I have one of the best jobs in the world because I've been given a wonderful opportunity to work with a lot of great people. I get to travel all over the world, and I have to mention that yesterday I just returned, or the day before yesterday, I just returned from Berlin, Germany, attending a coin fair. And I came blurry-eyed walking down the airport steps at the Carson City, Nevada airport. And I wasn't paying a lot of attention, and all of a sudden someone called out, "Hey, Director Ryder." And I looked up, and there was none other than the Congressman sitting right here with three of his staff, and one of them was a 79-year-old Marine Corps veteran who I said, "Semper Fi," but they were holding a 10-foot banner that said, "Welcome to Carson City, Mint Director David J. Ryder, in the celebration of the 150th Sesquicentennial birthday for the Carson City Mint." Now, I'm also very sure that I can only say in 148 countries around the world, there's only been one other person to give me a banner on my way home, and that was my dear mother, when I used to go back to Boise Air Terminal and go home after a long way. So, Congressman. I've talked enough. I thank you very much for coming, and enjoy the celebration today, and go mint your own personal coin.
A big round of applause for our panel today. All that applause gets your blood going again, right? And one more thank you, which is to the Nevada Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs and Travel Nevada, which helped to promote this event nationwide. And it was such an honor to have such distinguished people here to come and really fulfill a moment in time that this mint deserves. And I think the nation should recognize that the Carson City Mint, with its original coin press, is still here. And it's an amazing artifact, not just for Carson City, not just for the state of Nevada, but for the entire country. Thank you all for coming.